Okay. Well, I try not to respond. I try not to. It's not easy, but so I go away from these and this sort of conversation, someone confronting me, and there's someone who hardly knows. And even after I say, but do you know my background? Do you know what I've done for the last 30 years? And this is the area that I specialize. Even then, it doesn't make any difference. Right. Even then, they say, well, I still think it's bullshit. And I have every right to have this opinion. And I think, whoa. I mean, I think that's big. So I go away as kindly as I can, as inclusively as I can. I started thinking, what the hell's going on? Why are these people, number one, have this opinion because I usually say to them, okay, this is my credentials. What is is this an area that you have expertise? No, I don't have expertise in it. I just don't believe it. Okay, so they don't have much expertise, they don't have much knowledge, and yet they believe passionately, aggressively about this. So And these people seem to be, reasonable. They're not mad. No. They're not crazy, and most of them are educated. Some of them are my friends. Yeah. So that was the seed, if you like, of my research. I thought I really need to find out what the hell's going on. Right. I really want to know, what is it about these people? What is it that gives them this passionate belief or non-belief in a scientific fact. Right. It's like believing that the Earth is flat, or believing gravity doesn't exist. Right. You know what I mean?
It's crazy. I totally get where you're coming from, and what I said earlier. It's people who are educated in their respective fields, right? And it's so funny because it's like there's like a double. How would you say double thought, where people have, it's like cognitive dissonance, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It is dissonant. They're actually troubled internally, like in their heads. There's two things happening, and they're in conflict with each other, and that's what cognitive.
And it's weird because if I comment on their field that they're researching or they're experts in, they'll look at me and say, Hamid, what are you on about? You have no knowledge, right?
Exactly.
But when it happens to climate scientists, or even when it comes to cancer research, I'm sure you've met people who are skeptical about cancer and the involvement of pharmaceutical companies in trying to hide the cure.
Well, the best example of that is anti-vax.
Yes.
You see, but there's a very good correlation, similarity between anti-vaxxers and anti-climate science people. And the similarity is this, in my opinion. You know how I said this person says, well, I have every right to have this opinion. I have every right to have this belief. Well, I know this is an extreme thing to say, but you know what? I don't think you do. I'll tell you why. Whereas if I prefer tea instead of coffee, I drink tea. Do I affect your life? Not at all. Maybe I affect the tea companies a bit, but my one cup of tea a day isn't going to change the economy of beverages. And when I drink tea instead of coffee, I'm not affecting the global community. I'm not at all. I mean, it's just a preference. It's an opinion I have. I think tea is better for me than coffee, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but it doesn't affect humanity. Right. Whereas, and this is where vaccination is similar to it, whereas if I have a belief in anti-vaxxing and I don't vaccinate or I don't get my child vaccinated, it doesn't just affect my child, it doesn't just affect me or my family, it affects the whole community. Right. It turns out, right? So same thing with climate change. These people who have these strong views, they don't seem to have enough knowledge of it to have such views. And in a way, their views, which then affect the way they vote. I mean, I'm gonna say this. I don't care if it's politically correct or not. I mean, whoever voted, people like Malcolm Roberts into Australia's Senate. I mean, these people are voting these people into our parliament, and our parliament is making these decisions. So,
Sorry, before you go.
oh,
who's
Malcolm Roberts.
Yeah,
Oh my God, just Google him. He's in One Nation.
Okay.
He works closely with Pauline Hanson, and his problem, unlike Pauline, who kind of we can dismiss, she's
crazy.
She's. I wasn't going to say that. I'm trying to avoid some sort of court case here.
Fair enough.
Whereas we can dismiss her opinions. She's not very old, and she's a fish and chips owner. She's kind of a housewife-ish sort of woman who's got strong opinion. Blah blah. But the problem with Malcolm Roberts is he's actually educated.
Yeah.
He actually has a degree in mining engineering, I think, or something like that. And I think he's done an MBA. Can you believe it? So this guy, and the other problem is not only is he educated, but when he speaks, he actually kind of makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't speak like Pauline does in sort of, three-word sentences. He actually can put a sentence together, and his questions sound reasonable and rational.
Yeah.
And when he speaks, he actually sounds rational. So if you're sort of a halfway person, not quite sure, a skeptic, and you listen to Malcolm Roberts, you go, this guy, he's absolutely, his questions are valid.
Yeah.
And guess what? They're not.
So
this is why he's people like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm not having a go at him only, but I'm just giving him as an example. So when I say these people, these deniers, they're voting these people into our powerhouse, and these people are making decisions on our behalf.
Right.
So these fringe elements, these extreme, we started this conversation with sexual extremes, right? Well, now we have climate extremes.
Right.
So if we vote these extremists on either side into Parliament, and they're making these decisions, it's not addressing. First of all, it doesn't even address our democracy. Again, I'm going into dangerous ground here. I think our democratic processes are in danger because what's happening is these extreme views are muddying the conversation, even now.
Yep.
Look at this discussion on, same-sex marriage. Look at the discussion on climate change. Look at the discussion we're having on energy supply, and almost every just listen to Parliament. On any day, you will find that it's not the middle ground that addresses 80-70% of opinion in Australia. So our democracies, if you like, being hijacked by extremism. So this is, I'm coming back to these people who have these opinions that are not rational, and my book explores the irrationality of it, the irrationality of denial. I mean, we're all in denial of something. It's a very, very common. It turns out, as I found out, and my book tries to explain this in a very simplistic way, denial is a very, very common cognitive barrier, cognitive defense mechanism sometimes. Sometimes when we can't deal with a difficult situation, sometimes when it's so complex that we want to simplify things in our own heads, we tend to rely on denial.
Yeah.
It's a very easy way. For instance, if I'm facing a really difficult issue in my life, the easiest thing I can do is just deny that it's even happening.
Yeah.
It's as easy as that.
Right.
It's not happening. It's not there. You know what I mean? And let's be honest, at some point or another, it doesn't have to be an extreme situation. At some point or another, we're all kind of not guilty, but we all tend to rely on this cognitive defense mechanism. It's a coping. In fact, psychologists call it coping mechanism, defense mechanism.
Thanks for listening to Blab Codes. Rate and review our podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast, because it does help us spread the word. And if you like what we're doing here, then help us grow it by sharing this with a friend of a friend, or your mailman, even your mailman's mailman. We also want to hear from you, so send us questions or comments to blabquotes@gmail.com. And if you have any interesting questions or comments, then we'll talk about it on air.